Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, it's very honored to be here. So I would like to introduce myself. My name is Hana Faiza. I'm a college student at doctoral program of Human Resource Management, Faculty of Economic, University of Batam, Indonesia. I would like to thank you so much for having me today, and then thank you very much for all keynote speaker, committee, moderator, presenter, and also participant. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm so happy to be share my research to all of you in the first international conference on economic and management science held on August 29, 2020 by University of Batam, Indonesia. Our research title is Influence of Servant Leadership, Organizational Safety Culture, and Work Environment on Organizational Citizenship Behavior, or OCB, in application of patient safety with effective organizational commitment. There are 5 content in this presentation that are introduction, literature review, research method, result, and also conclusion. The success of the application of patient safety in hospital, among others, is measured by how much the productivity of health workers in providing quality care to patients and their family. Many factors that influence patient safety, which are organizational safety culture, work environment, individual factor, as in citizenship behavior, work behavior, teamwork structure, and servant leadership. The hospital, as one of the health service institutions that conduct individual health services, is complete through inpatient, outpatient, and emergency services. To accomplish the competition and the service continues, it is necessary to strive continuously to improve the quality of health services in the hospital. Patient safety has become a global issue in the quality of health service organized by hospital. Servant leadership becomes an important point in running an organization in the health sector. In this case, I mean the hospital. The further implementation of servant leadership will encourage organizational safety culture by health and non-health workers to provide plenary services. This will also encourage health and non-health workers in a hospital to show organizational citizenship behavior, or OCB, in line with the organizational commitment. The existence of an established work environment is also an important factor in its implementation. And then finally, patient safety will be realized through effective organizational commitment in hospital as health organization. Based on the application above, then the research question can be formulated as below. First, whether servant leadership directly influence on OCB. Second, whether organizational safety culture directly influence on OCB. Third, whether work environment directly influence on OCB. Fourth, whether servant leadership directly influence on effective organizational commitment. Fifth, whether organizational safety culture directly influence on effective organizational commitment. Sixth, whether work environment directly influence on effective organizational commitment. Seventh, whether effective organizational commitment directly influence on OCB in the application of patient safety in the hospital. This is my literature review about OCB, work environment, and then organizational safety culture. Meanwhile, servant leadership based on Cambridge et al. 2016. Servant leadership affect job attitudes, commitment, empowerment, job satisfaction, engagement. Servant leadership affect performance, which are OCB, team effectiveness, then organizational outcomes, including sustainability, corporate social responsibility. Based on Murray 2000, talk about model of organizational human and technical component of socio-technical system, patient affected by work environment, and then equipment, individual, teamwork, organizational, and management, societal, cultural, and regulatory influences. So my research hypotheses are servant leadership have an influence on OCB, organizational safety culture have an influence on OCB, work environment have an influence on OCB, and then servant leadership have an influence on effective organizational commitment. Organizational safety culture have influence on effective organizational commitment. Work environment have an influence on effective organizational commitment, and then effective organizational commitment have an influence on OCB in the application of patient safety in the hospital. study population was called workers in the hospital. The sample is determined by the sample size of 54 health workers. Internal consistency testing uses composite reliability value with the criteria a variable to be reliable if the composite reliability value more than 0.6. Data collection is defined as the procedure of collecting data with questionnaire, tabulating of data including collecting, measuring, and analyzing accurate insight for results using standard validated technique. The analysis of the path coefficient in this study was assisted by SmartPLS version 3.0. Based on internal consistency analysis data in the table, the results show that the variables of leadership, organizational culture, work environment, and OCB have composite reliability more than 0.600. So the question developed on the variable are reliable, meaning cross-item question developed on the questionnaire of variables has the same consistency. Based on the table, the correlation result obtained variables of leadership with OSC, work environment, effective organizational commitment, OCB, and OSC with work environment, effective organizational commitment, and then OCB and work environment with effective organizational commitment, OCB, and effective organizational commitment with OCB have a correlation value less than 0.9. Thus, the value, the correlation of all variables is declared valid. Analysis of structural model or inner model aims to test the research hypothesis, the part that need to be analyzed. If the structural model is the coefficient of determined or R squared by testing the hypothesis. From the data, it can be described as follows. The variance of inflation factor or VIF value for the correlation of servant leadership with OCB, organizational safety culture with OCB, work environment with OCB, effective organizational commitment with OCB is less than 5.00. There is no corollary problem. Therefore, from the data above and the development of structural model in this case, there is no problem. Based on the table, it can be seen that squared multiple correlation of effective organizational commitment 0.586. It means that the influence of servant leadership, organizational safety culture, and work environment as indicator on effective organizational commitment are 58.6%, quietly high if compared with the other variable are 41.4% apart from this research variable. Meanwhile, the squared multiple correlation of organizational citizenship behavior 0.668. It means that the influence of servant leadership, organizational safety culture, and work environment as indicators on organizational citizenship behavior are 66.8%, quietly high if compared with the other variable are 33.2% apart from this research variable. As seen at the figure about the hypothesis testing, which are there are four independent variables in this research, which are servant leadership, organizational safety culture, and work environment, furthermore effective organizational commitment, and then meanwhile our organizational citizenship behavior as a dependent variable. The direct effect of variable servant leadership on variable effective organizational commitment has a path coefficient of 0.512 positive. An increase in the value of variable servant leadership will be followed by an increase in variable effective organizational commitment. The effect of variable servant leadership on effective organizational commitment has a p-value of 0.611, more than 0.05, so it can be stated that the influence between servant leadership on effective organizational commitment is not significant. The direct effect of variable servant leadership on variable OCB has a path coefficient of 0.663 positive. An increase in the value of variable servant leadership will be followed by an increase in variable OCB. The effect of variable servant leadership on OCB has a p-value of 0.510 more than 0.05. So it can be stated that the influence of servant leadership on OCB is not significant. The direct effect of variable of organizational safety culture on variable effective organizational commitment has a PET coefficient of 0.109 positive. An increase in the value of variable OSC will be followed by an increase in variable effective organizational commitment. The effect of variable organizational safety culture on effective organizational commitment has a p-value of 0.914 more than 0.05. So it can be stated that the influence between organizational safety culture on effective organizational commitment is not significant. The direct effect of variable organizational safety culture on variable organizational citizenship behavior has a PET coefficient of 0.473 positive. An increase in the value of variable OSC will be followed by an increase in variable OCB. The influence of variable OSC to OCB has a p-value of 0.636 more than 0.05. So it can be stated that the influence between organizational safety culture on organizational citizenship behavior is not significant. The direct effect of variable environment on variable effective organizational commitment has a PET coefficient of 2.466 positive. An increase in the value of variable work environment will be followed by an increase in variable effective organizational commitment. The effect of variable work environment on effective organizational commitment has a p-value of 0.070 less than 0.05. So it can be stated that the influence between work environment on effective organizational commitment is significant. The direct effect of variable work environment on variable OCB has a PET coefficient of 0.130H positive. An increase in the value of variable work environment will be followed by an increase in the variable OCB. The effect of variable work environment on OCB has a p-value of 0.011 less than 0.05. So it can be stated that the influence between work environment on OCB is significant. The direct effect of variable effective organizational commitment on organizational citizenship behavior has a PET coefficient of 2.509 positive. An increase in the value of variable effective organizational commitment will be followed by an increase in a variable organizational citizenship behavior. The effect of variable effective organizational commitment on OCB has a p-value of 0.015 less than 0.05. So it can be stated that the influence between effective organizational commitment on OCB is significant. The coefficient of indirect effect servant leadership on OCB is 0.663 more than 0.497. The direct effect of servant leadership on OCB, thus it can be stated that effective organizational commitment mediates the effect of servant leadership and OCB. Furthermore, the coefficient value of the indirect effect of the variable OSG on OCB is 0.473 more than 0.1227. The direct effect of OSC on OCB, thus it can be stated that effective organizational commitment mediates the effect of organizational safety culture on OCB. Then the coefficient value of indirect effect of the variable work environment on OCB is 0.138 less than 3.719. The direct effect of work environment on OCB, so it can be stated that effective organizational commitment doesn't mediate the effect of work environment on OCB. About my conclusion, the research prove that the servant leadership and organizational safety culture need to be improved beside the A supportive work environment have a positive influence on OCD in the application of patient safety in hospital. Furthermore, it is expected that nurse manager will be able to implement servant leadership and safety culture as well as adequate work environment support so that OCB in implementing patient safety can run optimally. This can be assessed based on patient safety incident and service quality of hospital brand equity. And then finally, to accomplish the competition and the service continues, it is necessary to strive continuously to improve the quality of health service in the hospital. That was, I sincerely appreciate that I have this opportunity to present to you about my research presentation, and then thank you so much for your interest and attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a good day, amazing people.